Then Bob may be coming in the door and we'll be on the.
That's what she must be.
Oh, is this Darren on?
Nope, unless he's,
Yeah, I just want to take a thing off him.
Nobody by Zoom, nobody.
you are alive.
Hey, I'm gonna call the meeting to order, the Southwestern Budget Service Commission, regular board meeting, May 22nd, 2025. We have a quorum. The conflict of interest is your opportunity to declare a conflict of interest. If there's none, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. I need a motion for that. Adoption. Alan?
I propose an amendment.
Sure, absolutely, go ahead. It's a big
Could we add like a closed ring camera session? Give it all, what's that?
What's the?
Employee, I guess, would be the personnel, yeah.
That'd be under, new business, maybe?
Where you guys would like it to be, really.
It should be, if I'm streaming, it should be at the end of this meeting.
Let's at the end, it's fine. Yeah.
In the.
And Hollis, obviously, you stay in the room. They're like, I don't know, if that's normal, but it's not regarding you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear.
That was a nervous one. Okay, so I'm not sure.
Oh, he doesn't know what I'm talking about right now. It's not about her either, but whatever you have to do.
That's why that's worried.
No one in the room.
Meet with
So we need to vote on
Yeah, amendment.
that, and it's gotta be unanimous too.
That's okay. There was.
Memory on you.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we need, okay, that's a motion, that's a motion, we need a second for that. Jim?
Well, I thought-
The original motion, this is the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment.
Oh,
So the amendment was, okay, use Denny? We're gonna vote on the amendment first. Question or comment on this? Guess we can't count it too much, I because it's first now.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, back to the original motion with this added to it. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Contrary, that's passed unanimously. Adoption of the minutes of the board meeting April 24th, and we need a motion for that. Al? Seconded by Brad. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Contrary, that's passed unanimously. Business arising from the previous meeting, committee ratification. That's the thing that Paul's been working on and sending us. And that, does everybody have a copy of the, yeah.
Yeah, it's in your package.
Well, what we need is, if there's no changes to that, no, you go ahead.
Brad, I got your email, but I got it like super late.
Yeah, it was late.
Yeah.
That's not on the list. So I think make the motion. And then put it up for discussion and there may be a couple of changes to the list.
Yeah, so give me one quick sec here. Yeah, so,
Make the motion first.
make the motion. I would move that the following individuals get added to the, I guess accompanying committees. Annette Harlan to the Community Development Committee. Lee Heaton to Tourism, Daryl Weir to Economic Development, and Mark Blanchard to Landfill Committee. And I guess just got a seconder that I can explain a little bit more and talk about what that means.
I've got a motion on the floor, some items added from St. Andrews, need a second for that. Okay. Question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like, the committees, that originally, I guess there was a little bit of concern over who was in it, one community being over indexed. I personally am not concerned with that overall, but with the same sense of I'm adding counselors to these different committees, which is important to my council right now for communication. I understand that, like, for example, Tourism Promotion Advisory Committee, it says Paul Knopper. I would be fine removing him from it to add that person in place, but over to you, there's a concern over the amount of people from each community. But personally, I know that everything they do is coming back to this board anyway for final decision. So over to you. But council made it perfectly clear when I brought up the committees at my meeting. Sorry, it was Tuesday night and I had to be in sick this Wednesday. They made it perfectly clear that right now they'd like to make sure that council, no different than Harvey Matthews on a lot of committees, is on every committee, so that's where that's coming from.
I'll just point out that Sanders is represented on every committee previous to these additions, so.
They are, but not with someone directly from council, and, I don't want to get personal like Sylvia Humphreys, but Sylvia Humphreys hasn't met with council in regards to community development, right? So I'm sure she's doing a wonderful job. It's just there's nothing coming back to the council from a committee level. And there are some committees that council's concerned about that haven't been meeting. And they want to make sure that they're aware of when people are meeting and all that stuff. But as well, we have a change with myself stepping down and the deputy mayor stepping into my role of making sure that other members of council are helping out with the regional service commission.
Just a question for Oscar. These things can be changed in any month along the way.
Yeah, they can be changed by motion.
Any regular meeting, yeah.
Motions are removable.
So, yeah, some can be added or subtracted at any time. Not a big deal tonight that everything has to be done tonight, but this is the starting point. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to add items, to add people from St. Andrews onto the list. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Contrary, that's passed unanimously. So now we gotta ratify the actual committee for everybody else on here. Any other, I need a motion for that, I guess, at this point, so.
That motion needs to be actually read that so that we're into public record for the committee members.
So you want every name spread out? Okay, so
Read it, I have the,
whoever makes the motion will have to.
just read that paper.
That's, the top, read that all the whole.
Yeah. So whoever jumps in, go ahead.
So I think,
Move,
Is it?
because I can add the names that I just listed.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Brett?
Okay, I move that the following committee members be ratified for the Community Development Advisory Committee. Membership shall include Suren Yoga Nathan and Joan Markowski. It's a shared role. Emma Keach, Kelly Harrell, Heather Chase, Kim Reeder, Sylvia Humphreys, Deanna Bent, Harvey Matthews, not a bad guy, Trish Toll, and Annette Harland. For Economic and Workforce Development Advisory Committee membership shall include Sheena Young, Don Doherty, Rivers Corbett, Mike Thompson, Deanna Bent, Harvey Matthews, Jane Turner, Rebecca Smith, Janie Jones, Paul Logan, and Daryl Weir. For the Tourism Promotion Advisory Committee, members shall include Taylor Glant, Sally Leggett, Brian Coleman, Paul Knopper, John Sutherland, Jordan Holmes, Harvey Matthews, Karen Greenland, Heather Saunier, and Lee Heenan. For the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, membership shall include Winston Gamble, Stan Chopdiani, Sam Walsh, Ken Stanix, Glenn Greenlaw, David Mahar, Jim Tubbs, Linda Sullivan Brown, and Mark Blanchard. For the Planning Review Adjustment Committee, membership shall include Sam Walsh, Chair, Vance Johnson, Vice Chair, Brian Cornish, Raymond Hall, Matt Rolo, Lorraine Thompson, Brenda Lynn, Allison Criley.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor and you second it to that. Now?
Let me reread that for you.
Vote faster.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor and a second. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Contrary, and it's passed unanimously. New business tonight, preliminary budget discussion. Motion. There is a motion, a suggested motion there for anybody. So what is,
So those are two different.
oh, they're two different things? Okay. I'll go to House in the first one.
So preliminary budget discussion, as we discussed at our committee meeting, it's just, I wanted to get out there. My intention is to create a budget very similar to this year's budget. I don't see any changes in services. I don't see any changes in what we're offering. But I want to start the ball rolling on discussing the budget, not about the dollars and cents, because that's what I'm gonna work on over the summer. But specifically what it is we're budgeting for. We had a lot of back and forth last year with our budget. And in the end, we did make some changes. So I want to start discussing if there's any other changes that you see this year that the board wants to go forward with. Example would be recreation. We we dropped recreation last year. I want to make sure that that's still the case. Is there any other services that we should be looking at? Is there a fund we should be setting up for any other reason? Or the upcoming policy changes that I need to budget for? So I'm asking the question, what do you want me to create the budget for? The same as what we have this year, or, and you don't have to answer it tonight. Obviously, you're not gonna be prepared tonight to answer that question, but
I'll speak first, but I'm not voting. I'm not allowed to vote on this, but,
oh no, you vote.
okay, okay, good. With the government freezing assessments, I think, municipalities are really gonna be hard, we're up against it this year. So at this level, the more we can hold the line or make even further cuts, it's great, but holding the line would be perfect. But, that's something that in the municipal level, we all have to go through that this year because the assessment freeze this year. Nobody wants to put taxes up, and, especially if the province is going to do the freeze in the assessments. We don't want to be turning around and putting tax rates up. So that's what, so it'd be good to keep a whole line here in this one. That's my say.
The only thing I'd like to, if I could through you, Mr. Chair, is, I wonder if there's an opportunity when it comes to animal control to figure out more of a regional solution. I don't know.
What's my
Oh, I did actually. So, the price points of what that service is, in my opinion, quite high for the amount of calls that are happening in the region. We're fortunate where we have a partnership in place with an individual. You have to have a kennel and all that stuff in order to do this. But that individual, probably later in their career of doing it, it's gonna be a gap, but I just wonder if, maybe it's not this year, maybe it's something that we put a committee together for, but look at what a regional solution is, because I bet you if you add up what everybody around this table is paying for that service, we could probably do it cheaper working together. So, just as far as a new service, I don't know what our municipality is. We got quotes, they're extremely high for it.
Add on,
Absolutely, brilliant.
so I think he's onto something.
Say that again?
Well, just because Mrs. Scratch was it last night, because we're, yeah. We're going through some growing pains of being in the district now, and the rural piece of, the dog catcher role, so to speak. And it's challenging, so it would be nice to have a regional approach and a regional, bylaw that fits us all and handled that way. Yeah, I think there's some merit to that. And it wouldn't be, even though the budget would increase here, it would just be a wash because it would come off our other budgets that are much
I'm
lower.
confident we'd be ahead. If you told me around this table, we were spending $200,000 or $250,000, I'd believe it. Tie.
So I don't know if that's something, can the region do that?
Yeah, it'd be under voluntary services, but yeah, I mean, other regions do all kinds
We
of.
just signed it, so we just did the title on there, but it's not huge. If I look at what we pay to the service that we get,
Our biggest issue has been non-compliance with the dog bylaw and ending up in court. We have a very significant legal bill ongoing right now, fighting about whether the dog is in fact dangerous or not. And that's been a challenge. So if there's some, which you're not going to avoid those individual circumstances. I'm cognizant of the fact that we are live, but it's, but if there was a more streamlined approach to some of those things, I don't think that would be a bad thing. I'm just, the only thing with my challenge is of course the geography.
You're unique.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I know. Sign when you say it, I sign when I say it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are. We need a animal control helicopter.
Exactly. Get a little boat, like a fast craft, and yeah. But I do think it's worth talking about.
Paw Patrol.
So I have,
So that gives you an idea, I guess, maybe.
I have no experience in animal control or what the cost could be or anything like that. Is that something realistically think I could put a budget together for next year, or, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I can.
Maybe the starting point would be an email to all of us, just to say how much you pay. And then we could, just see what that total is together and see what that works for a budget for you to see if there's a way to reduce it. Cause if you can't do it any cheaper, then it probably isn't gonna work. But, I will say that we have this agreement in place, but I know what the other quotes are. This agreement that we have in place isn't gonna last forever. It's an individual that wasn't even sure they wanted to do it this year, and I appreciate them doing that. They're watching, but I'd really like to start thinking about a plan B, because I think eventually I'm gonna need it. And I bet you some municipalities here, based on the quotes I received, are paying big bills for this service.
Okay, well, I can do that. I can figure out what we're spending, what you are all collectively spending as a region.
Yeah. And there might not be anything there. I think it's worthwhile looking at though, like, you know, never know, cut our costs in half or something like that.
Yep.
I don't think it's a full-time job for anyone, even in the region. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Still staying along the same lines and trying to keep, hold the line on cost, because if we can save money, then pay it out of our own budgets.
The rural district may be a wrinkle in the region plan. Not sure whether or not our services are paid for by the minister and designated by the minister, so we would have to get out of that agreement with the provincial government to get into the other agreement. I don't know how difficult that would be, but it could be a wrinkle.
on that,
Who's
no,
doing it for you?
I don't know. And SPCA St. John was the last I heard.
Probably still is.
I think that's the same through us.
Yeah.
Under New Brunswick SPC of St. John.
Yeah, I think that's what we ours is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'd be something that you can investigate over the next.
We could come up with some idea.
Yeah.
And,
Anybody else want to add something else? Paul's is asking.
But just for that, for on Brad, just on that point, it's just, I don't wanna get into numbers because we're alive, but even what we're paying, and I don't know what council, all the time comes, but even if it was a bit more for what the service you get, because I know they're stretched right now for what they get, 'cause one person covers from like Sussex to way down here. It's like a big area, and you call them and you never, it's like, oh, just, it's like, but we're paying you to. So the price may be a little more, but you might be getting a better service regionally than what we're getting individually.
you're spot on, just to see what do we all pay, and then,
Yeah.
and then with what that budget is, could we either save money or could we provide a better service, right? So we may or may not be able to.
And
worth looking
I think anything, and I know we talked about a few things before, but I think anything like that regionally is a way better approach, just maybe trying to get a better service or save money within our budget as a region than doing some of the other stuff that we do.
My former LSD said
The
that
government's forcing them.
people in former LSD said they'd call it over cup. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but that's
The LSCs,
in the provincial agreement, yeah.
we adopted that with the amalgamation, the way, right? You know, responsible for it. I adopted that, so that's the challenge we're having now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's good all across the board to look at to see if we can come up with a better bargain or a
Yeah,
better.
There's a lot more dogs on there we've ever had. I don't know, that's tied in with the economy and what's going on, but.
Okay, we'll move on. Is there anything else that you want to give to Hollis?
if there are other budget considerations, bring them back next month to our committee meeting, ideally, if we have time for that. Because I start the preliminary budget process in June. Right, and I start putting together, and my plan was to base it on what we're doing this year. We may add this other thing, but other than that, I don't anticipate any other changes to the budget other than there may be some inflationary costs. It won't be much.
Yeah, at this point, Bonnie's here, so I'm gonna switch seats with Bonnie.
Very happy. You keep sharing. You're fine.
As long as we're following the rules, we follow the rules. I just want to make sure we're.
Actually, there isn't a specific rule over that, so.
I know.
No fights.
You started, you finished.
I won't say
Actually,
things.
probably-
We're live, I'm not saying things.
Let's put this to a vote.
Not fighting, Harvey's not here tonight, he's supposed to be my backup.
I'll be quiet. Okay, next is the Bay of Fundy missing dog rescue. This was discussed in the working sessions. What's your pleasure?
I'll move to make a motion of a one-time contribution to the Bay of Fundy Missing Dog Rescue of $5,000 for the purchase of equipment and supplies, supporting the animal control mandate of local governments.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor by Brad, second by Denny. Question or comment? None? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, that's passed unanimously. Staff report, solid waste.
Right, so I'm handling all the staff reports tonight. Solid waste. So the report is, ongoing landfill activities, ongoing recycle transfer activities. We're doing some capping on, top of the cells. We're dewatering where cell 14 is gonna be built later on. And, gonna put in the under drain piping there. The compactor delivery has been pushed back until July. On that note, by the way, next month I will be looking for a motion to withdraw from cap reserve. It's not for the full purchase price, but some of that money is coming out of operations. I asked if we needed it tonight, we don't, it's not coming till at least July, so. And, GPS is actually working out quite well. A little demonstration of that. So meeting that six, so minutes of that are attached here as well. It was a fairly lengthy meeting, I guess, for those of you that were involved. So our water quality report, as usual, we get that from Gemtech. Nothing of note there of concern. This is the year we renew our certificate of approval. And again, there's nothing really to note there. We're doing weekly operational sampling, and we do that by our own staff now. We don't outsource everything to outside. Gemtech still handles the monthly compliance stuff. There's a plan for the under drain. John, a couple of there's a report on the landfill gas system update. So we have a couple of new wells, which seem to be, and they're a new design. For those of you that don't know, instead of being a vertical well like you would normally drill, these are on the slope, so they collect everything underneath, and we don't have to drill. We don't have to drill. We can actually do it ourselves instead of having drilling rigs, which makes a lot more sense. We capture more gas this way. They've been more effective and a whole lot cheaper to do because we just use reused piping that we have. Our treatment system, we have our new aeration and diffusers in, and replace a lot of the leachate pumps. Compact replacement, we discussed that at the committee. As I just said, that's going to be delivered in July, it looks like now. So we ended up, the cost of what we bought was, it was a BOMAG, was the winning bid at 1.18 million. We had budgeted 1.5 million. And this way, and there's no tariffs that apply to this one. These comes from Germany. And the only other thing of note that is that the organics management plan by the province seems to be going ahead. Sounds like they haven't changed the timeline, so it's still going to be at some point in 2028. We don't know what it's going to look like completely yet. If that's a ban on organics in the landfill, that would be a significant problem for us. Not problem, but something we're going to have to really talk a lot about. But I don't want to make any predictions because the province really hasn't sorted it out yet. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Questions for? Okay, go ahead.
Comment or just share some information that, you know, how we added multi-units and schools to the recycling. The schools have been notified by certified material, so they already know about it. So that our focus now can just be on the kind of multi-units above whatever you're, 3 and above. So they know what they're doing with it, I don't know, but they do know.
Any other questions or comments on the solid waste? Now we'll move on to local and regional planning. Alice.
So main projects in their planning department, St. Andrews Municipal Plan and Zoning Bylaw, St. Stephen's Zoning Bylaw and Downtown Facade Improvement Policy. Several large-scale subdivision developments at various states. Supporting housing and infrastructure grant applications for local governments. Developed a live searchable permit dashboard for communities, and when I get this up and completely running, I will demonstrate this. It's really cool. You can zoom in and out of the map, and you can see in any particular part of the region that's been developed and what the values were and stuff. Helping and educating some contractors on the new, so we've been struggling a little bit with the new building code stuff, but trying to get the word out to make sure that everybody's aware that that's what we're under now. And so some of the statistics here, I won't go through all the numbers, but of note would be that the same period, January to now, last year to this year, the construction value last year would be 13.5 million almost, and this year is over 25 million. Last year was 28 dwelling units from January to now. This year it's 92. However, last year was 109 building permits. This year is 87. What's happening is a lot more apartment buildings, a lot more bigger value buildings and multi-unit dwellings. That's reflected in our building permits and values. So that's kind of an interesting one to note.
Probably a good sign.
What's my report, Mr. Chairman?
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Alice on that?
Just I'll make a comment. I kind of talked about this earlier, but I appreciate the work on the zoning and the facade program providing municipality. So it's nice to have that amount of people working on something.
They put a lot of work in
Yeah.
it.
It's just nice to get back to something that's been on my wish list for many years.
All right. No other questions, regional economic and workforce development.
So we've got approval to go forward with the feasibility study for the ZIP. That asset or that person, I should say, will be in place next year, and that's fully paid for and fully funded. That'll be a great asset for the region. I guess the biggest thing in economic and workforce development is she's been pretty tied up with the Southwest Business Summit, which is next week. Yeah, a lot of put into getting that going, but it seems like it's going to be a real good. A lot of events are already sold out. Looks like it's going to be a success. Some of the development projects, there's a study to look at some possibilities with the airport, the NDSS airport, and Huntsman. She's been working a lot with Huntsman about what the future is down there, the science park, or I don't know all the details personally, but so they've been meeting with some funders like Acola and people like that. We're to take that. And again, that GIS tool and dashboard, it ties in with what I was just talking about, where you can look in the region, you can see all the homes and stuff like that. But we're tying in all of the economic development stuff as well. So once that stuff done, and it's not very far away from being done, to demonstrate that. My report, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments for Alice? Now we move ahead to where are we on next? Regional community development.
Community development. So, cool. Okay, so the committee has met again. And in that meeting, there were also, there's a little bit of crossover with the regional resiliency. So there's been some talk about how we can merge those things better and how we can communicate better between the regional development committee, because they're essentially mostly the same people. And doing a lot of, and they basically collaborate. It's almost the same thing. So we're going to work on that over the next few months. So we'll probably come back to the board with a recommendation on what to do there. Ongoing communication. So the big news, I think, is going to be the OPT4. There is a meeting June 5th. So part of that meeting for ESIC and OPT4 is going to be at McAdavid Place. The first part of the day is like community developers and those folks, and then the 5:30 meeting is mostly for you guys. And if you want to invite councilors or CAOs or municipal, it's basically a municipal focus for the 5:30 meeting. If you can make it, that would be great, because they've got a lot of priorities listed in OPT4, and I know they were a year and a half in creating this plan.
Can you expand on OPT4?
Coming to poverty together for. So Economic and Social Inclusion Corporation, this will be the fourth version of this. Over the past, I forget how many years they've been operating this. This is what Vibrant Communities kind of called previously. It would have been 2 and then 3, and then 3 led into what we're doing here when we adopted Vibrant Communities. And now that community development is part of our mandate, falls squarely within us. Economic Social Inclusion are one of the major funders that we have for our community development branch. They have taken the last year and a half to come up with this plan. It's a strategic plan for actions they're going to take. There's a whole bunch of actions they have listed, but they have a subset of actions that are specific to local governments. That's what they want to talk to you about on the 5th. Some of the actions are Regional Service Commission, which we're taking in because we are. I know it's a lot to take in, and it took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around it. But I have seen the full report of OPT4, and it's well done. There's a lot of community consultation for a long time to get to where it was.
Go ahead, Al.
So what I've got in my calendar here is their E6's gonna, okay. They're gonna be give us at a meeting in that day. There's also a 3:31. What is a public session? So
yeah, so that one's more general, and that'll have a lot of like, say, community developers, Horizon, the various other NGOs and groups and stuff. Will probably go to that one because it's probably going to be geared more towards nonprofits and.
all right, so I guess that my question is, I should show up at 2:30.
The 5:30.
So
The 5:30 one's the local government.
okay, so what's the else? It's a public engagement. Should say just it's the public engagement plan.
It's everybody else, so not local governments, but like say 3:30 would be more like nonprofits and NGOs, and 5:30 is more local government.
So 5:30 is like our meeting, but ESIC involved with it. Same as what tonight would be, because that would be presenting.
That's your June 5th meeting?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'll be there, so it's okay, like deputy mayor.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you want to bring,
Council members.
Yeah.
if you've got specific counselors that are kind of in that space or something like that, feel free to bring them, or your CAOs, because they're going to talk about actions that local governments can take to address. When they say overcoming poverty, it's not just, they're not talking about writing checks. It's about the effects of poverty and how we can help mitigate. So it's more about actions that local governments to align with what they're doing that you can.
Is the 3:30 presentation by invitation only, or
No, you can
others
show-
can attend?
You can go to both if you want.
You could, yeah, that's what I was
Well, I'm just
thinking.
wondering if it, yeah, we chance to see
What other
connect with
network?
those groups.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, that's probably why I put
That's not
my.
a bad idea, so lots of space, there, that's why they're doing it there.
Any other questions or comments on that report? If not, we move ahead to the,
Just,
there's a jump too far ahead.
well, the other piece of the community development would be transportation.
Oh, right, yes. All right.
So Dollar Ride, the van has been transferred. If I think of there, I made a social media page. So largely that van's gonna be, they've been doing a lot of workforce drives. And so that's really gonna be helpful and kind of take off a lot of pressure because they can combine. I think it's gonna end up being used there. It's up to them what they want to do with it. That seemed to be what they indicated. And we're still waiting for our TSF application, the Rural Transit Solutions Funding application. And furthermore, then the attached to that community development report is also the grant activities. So that's the next page. So this is from our bill writer. It's got some new organizations that he's engaged with, some more projects, some more applications written, some more research. You guys can read, so I won't read the whole thing, but the database is still ongoing. Hoping to get that fairly soon. No, so yeah, looks like the RCMP gifted a vehicle to Bathurst.
Search and rescue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw it today, and I was looking at the, other right thing, and I said, oh, looks like we started a trend here, that
That's an month or more.
it was fresh. Fresh, yeah.
So the waiting on update didn't tell us that we didn't get the money, you just couldn't find out why we didn't, is that? I thought back,
Which one we talking about?
the update on the application status for the rural transit solutions.
We applied again.
Oh, so, okay.
Well, that maybe, I'm glad that you brought that up, and it was part of the report, because when I thought of the budget, that's one thing I was wondering is those dollars that we put forward this year, what does it look like? So we're
Get those back.
gonna run it back and see if we can't do better the second time, right? That's what that money's for.
It's still there.
Yeah, so we're just gonna carry it forward, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. That's actually a good point.
Yeah, I meant to
I
bring it
won't
up.
be adding that into the budget again.
Yeah.
That would be good.
yeah,
That was a
exactly.
pretty big chunk.
CEO report. Awesome.
You can see waste year over year is down slightly, but I'm not really that concerned. It's pretty significant. 2023 was a good year for us, obviously. But we seem to be holding okay. Planning file. You can see our year-to-date breakdown of various plant types. Our website is still quite busy. I mean, April's 6,400 page views. We got a couple thousand new visitors. So we get a lot. We had a discussion today about you're looking up anything to do with building codes, planning, that kind of stuff on Google. You know how now you get an AI summary, which is annoying, but it actually references us. The website. Looking around here, it's been taken up. We get scraped a lot for information out of our website, so I think it's generating a lot of traffic there. Good thing.
It's not people, it's AI doing it.
AI scrapes the site and then presents it to people. This is how Google hijacked web pages. So instead of you Googling something and seeing a bunch of links to other people's web pages, they scrape all the information, put it in an AI summary, and that's when you Google, you see that AI summary, that's what that is.
That's concerning. Not like if we're using this data on many things, like our tourism pages and it's being just AI doing it, and it's not actual people traveling, that's concerning. Like,
AI is scraping the various websites, like they scrape ours quite a bit. Yeah,
Right.
When you type in building code for Charlotte County, New Brunswick, the very first thing that comes up is SNBSC.
No, we've got pretty good lesson.
But after the summer, you still have the option to click on that website to go.
Yeah, but here's the problem. It used to be in the old days, search something in Google and you see a bunch of websites that may have relevant information. Now you search something in Google, you get an AI summary, which is just a bunch of stuff they stole from everybody else's website.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of sponsored links that may or may not be relevant because they're there for, and then you get to the second page and you might start getting,
The third page, you might get to the original person you wanted to get to.
and this is where we are. We'll go on a rant. So a couple of notes I have in my rest of my report there. I talked with the business summit again. I do have a table, by the way. June 5th, the OPT 4. So I do want to have a public thank you to Elijah Wright. Elijah Wright, we've had him for the last 4 weeks. Tomorrow's his last day. He's doing his practicum from IT at NBCC, and he has done an amazing job. And he's really kind of sorted out a lot of stuff for me, and done a lot of upgrades. Very intelligent young man. Like a lot of time, I deal with a lot of, because I used to be in the IT business, so I know when somebody's just kind of feeding you a bunch of crap, or oh no, we got this done, or they're cowboys and they go in and they rip everything apart and you have a bunch of downtime. He is absolutely the opposite of that. Methodical, thoughtful, very intelligent, good plans. So I just wanted to give a public shout out to him. I've just been so impressed with this year.
Okay, very good. You do quite well. Can you repeat his name again? What is that, right?
Oh, yeah. Huh? Interesting.
Just coincidence.
Excellent. Questions or comments for Hollis?
Oh, the only other thing in there, sorry, Mr. Chair, is the provincial meeting that Chair and I attended a couple of weeks ago. First day was we met with the Premier and the Minister of ELG and some of the ELG staff, had some discussions there. The next day was really concentrated on the associations, UMNB, AFM, NB, and I thought it was, my personal take on it was super productive because there's been a disconnect between the municipal associations and the regional service commissions. So this was a really good bridge building exercise. And I think we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of good connections there and a lot more commitment to working together a lot more in the future. So I thought that was great. And then the last day was ELG staffers, and they talked a little bit about upcoming review, things like that. And if you have anything else you want to add about those meetings.
No, the only thing I would say is that one of the recurring 3 days was training as we come into the next set of municipal elections, how we address training, if there's something that can be done before the election and then post-election, just given some of the challenges that there have been in some communities after amalgamation. That, I mean, you've seen a lot of that in the headlines, and I think that was recognized as there needs something, we need to improve what we're doing for training, whatever that looks like.
I'll just add to that, like, our district is literally doing an orientation package.
Yeah.
Earl, who just passed, was heading that. And we can keep going at this, but it's a live document right now. But the biggest concern I've had with just that topic, and I look at my own council chamber and I look around this table, I feel there's gonna be a lot of new people. And even at UMMB level, like I'm talking problems wide, someone, like I can see a whole new council. And then add that going to a place, right, to meet up with support systems that are all in. That's I think something needs to be done. So that's kind of why we're into it now already. Like it would be a group effort, like bring in like person we can call.
I think it'll be huge. And I mean, that was part of the conversation too, was people who run for council and maybe have a misconception of what the role of a counselor is, or what power the municipality has, what things they can address and what they can't address. And so, you know, when you run into the challenge of not disqualifying someone because anybody can run, but how do you make sure that people have the information of what they're getting into before they walk in the door?
You don't want to scare them off. though.
Well, you don't want to scare them off, but you also don't want to kind of go, oh, this
Yeah,
isn't what I thought it was
no.
gonna be.
There you go.
No,
And
they've
so
been,
there's-
been there, done that.
Level
Yeah.
up.
As a brand new mayor with no mayor or no council experience, other than watching you guys. Yeah, it's different, and I guess the benefit, and we spoke about this in a meeting the other day I had, is I guess I had a little bit of experience because I was involved, I was a president and vice. So I had some knowledge of how things worked or went, but that compared to politics, being a mayor or a councillor, way altogether two different hats. This is a whole different world, and yeah, I think that, and again, you can lay blame all the time. I can say, you know, government should step up more to help newer people on that piece, but I really think that early on. Yeah, and this year is our last year. It's stressful. There's a lot going on where I personally, and only for my municipality, I feel that we've gotten no support government wise, and I feel they're the biggest block. And if you want people to run or to be involved in this, I think they have to make easier access to them and easier access for education to teach people, because if not, yeah, you're just getting people to run to fill a seat, and we've seen what happened. You know, I met with rural communities a couple months ago, and that was the biggest discussion from the old LSDs to this was half of them are falling apart across the province because they, you know, you got mayors. I asked why the mayor wasn't there, and he's like, no, he just does his 2 meetings a month and that's it, because that's all he gets paid to do. And it's like, yeah.
That's not true, but.
No, but I mean,
No.
the frustration level was there of, they were just overwhelmed and they're like, no, I'm just doing. And I've been very fortunate because I have a really excellent council and a good CAO. So
It's
I've
like a
been
meeting every night.
fortunate.
You can just explain to new people that are running to be a new mayor that you also get a part-time job at a regional service commission.
Oh, every night you're involved in something. Yeah. And days, but, yeah, you have no idea. And then they measure you based on the 2 meetings a month they see. That's the big
Yeah,
thing.
no,
That's the easiest part of the job.
but I mean, you got, you know, and I mentioned that to Mayor Craig coming in, I just went in one door tonight, the front door, and changed out of my other stuff and into this quickly to get to, and it's just been that way the last 3 or 4 weeks, just meeting after meeting after meeting, and it's like, I'm okay with it, cause I knew what I was signing up for as a new mayor, but some really still that I talk to around are like, oh yeah, you guys got her made, you're doing like that, there's just no. So I think training needs to be huge by the government. They need to really step it up and.
Yes.
So
On the other hand, when we first came in, the provincial government ran a whole set of webinars about introduction to the whole thing, and I attended every one of those sessions, and as far as I'm concerned, none of them prepared anybody for what they were going to experience when they got into their jobs. Their webinars were highly ineffective. I think if it's going to be done, has to be done at the local level with the people to understand what's going to be happening at the local level.
It probably should be refreshed no lessons every 2 years, as you go through it. Cause you can't take it all in at once.
No.
Yeah, council, anybody gets elected, they have to understand their role as a councillor. They're there to set policy. They don't do the day-to-day operations. And I think one of the biggest myths when people first get elected. They think, oh, I'm elected now, I run the town. No, you don't. You set policy as a council, not as a councillor, but as a council. And
And they struggle with that.
they struggle with that because sometimes you get councillors trying to direct your CEO to do things. I said, well, I tell the CEO, you are instructed by the full council, not by each council. And that's something it takes a while to learn and it takes to understand.
So I was reassured that there was such an emphasis on it at all levels, that everybody has kind of said this is. And much like you said, we're potentially facing a huge turnover in municipal government worlds across the province, so. It could be a whole different group here in a year.
Good. I guess that brings us to financial report.
Here.
He's over there, are you?
Only she does.
Financial report.
Someone's leaving quicker than
Hall.
The revenue is on track. Is a little bit lower as percentage of, if target percentage for this one is third of the year for 4 months. Some of the revenue is lower. That's because we didn't have the grants come in or the money come in from provincial government for a lot of those things. That's the only reason why. We're right on track for our solid waste budget, so that's perfect. So we're close to where we need to be on revenue. And as like I said, it was just because some of those grants were deferred. Under expenses, we are under budget, under budget on expense, so under 30% in solid waste. So we're doing reasonably well. The total surplus that we're running right now is 197,000. It's modest, but it's at least in the right direction. That tells me that the budget was right. It was the right amounts, and so that's really I'm going to base next year's budget. It seems to be working well. All the details, if you get into some of the other pages there, and I'm happy to take any questions on those if you have them.
Questions for Alice on this? Now we go to question and answer to the public. Anything with the public tonight?
Mr. Chair, but while we're still in public, before we go to closed session, I just want to
Wait, we have one other item with attitude.
before we go to closed session.
I think he's gonna do probably the same one I was gonna do.
I just want to give a big thanks to Brad Henderson.
I gave you cookies.
This is his last board meeting. We're gonna miss him.
I miss you.
Alan's
Oh,
crying.
Alan's crying, okay.
Still bunk beds.
But seriously, it's been great to have you on the board, Brad, for the last however many years you've been here, as long as I have, more than me. I've always appreciated you're not afraid to speak your mind, and it's always for the right reasons. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate it too, but we can do this out of the meeting. Thanks, though. I appreciate it.
But I'll echo, I did the rant last week, so I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I didn't write it, anything
You guys should
down.
stop saying stuff, but
No, but to echo to echo what Paul said, again, back to our conversation a few minutes ago, as being, keep saying a new mayor, I guess 3 years, 2.5 years, it's still a new mayor. That I've learned a lot from you, and I respect, you and what you brought to the table. I think it's a true, I think it's good and bad that you're leaving, but I think it's good what you're leaving and why you're leaving for. I highly respect that. It's for your family, and you can't beat that. And I think that's, I think not only the board or me or whoever, but I think your town, just watching and knowing what I seen on your social media, I think your town's quite proud, and they should be. I think you've done a great job, so
thank you for
I
that.
appreciate it.
I appreciate that a lot, but I will say that tonight, ironically, I am missing my son's soccer. I'm his coach, and I'm not
Yeah,
here,
sorry.
I'm not there here. But that right there summarizes why I'm not doing it. There's been a lot of nights at regional service commission. I'll be honest, my attendance is probably the worst of anyone around. Right? You have this table. Don't get me wrong, I catch more than I miss, but the reason is because council meetings. You all know you can't miss those. You can't miss those. So it's been a hard juggle, and I'm sure you all experience it between your jobs, in your family, but with my 3 young boys, they're at an age where they want me more, so, before I ran for mayor, and I'm sure individually I've told all of you this, but before I ran for mayor, I sat down with my family and said, "Do you want me to run again?" And they were all supportive, but we, as a family, said 4 more years, and that to me is, when I ran for mayor, I made some commitments within the community, and I felt like I lived up to those, but the 4 more years, I want to live up to it to my family. They would have been okay if I did the 5th year, but you know, my oldest, he's only got 5 more years at home, so you do the extra year, that's 20% of the time I got left with him, right? And we all do it. Everyone around this table does it. There's a lot more nights that you're not home than you are home. And I want to be home more. So I will say that around this table, this group, and with Hollis, we've had a lot thrown at us. You know, get into a global pandemic, to get into a situation of, you know, municipal reform, and remember all the questions that we couldn't get answered, including Hollis couldn't get them. And every time you ask the questions, I don't know, until all of a sudden it got thrown down at you with no back and forth. So we got through that, and you know, things are certainly not perfect, but when everybody's when you got a bunch of good people working together, you can get through a lot. And I think that speaks to everybody around this table. So it's been an absolute pleasure, I'd say, working alongside every one of you and lobbying for different issues. And I will say that as a region, we are, and we all know this, we are stronger working together, especially when we're competing against larger urban centers and stuff like that, that having a voice together is really important. So thank you for all of that. I appreciate it. And all the other compliments and the flowers and stuff, let's just do that off air, okay? The fireworks, do we have fireworks?
Fire.
Fireworks?
There's
Just
gonna be a band
quickly,
going soon.
just
Yeah, there's
quickly
the
though,
banner, yeah.
you leaving now the way, like what you just said, and I think that shows and proves the integrity of you, of doing that. I think that's to me, what makes a good person, but I think makes a great mayor and leader, and I think you've summed that up.
I need to come to Kingsbury now and talk to my staff about, like, you could introduce me.
I'm available, $75 an hour.
Great, it's just fun. That might be a great investment.
And I'm crying now, I'm going home.
All right, any questions answered with the public? Questions answered.
Softball game, I wanna get to too.
Okay, at this point, we have to go into a,
Nope, because
Well,
we haven't adjourned yet. We're gonna go into closed, but I'm gonna cut off the live stream because it's.
like this point, people can talk.
I'm gonna close.
Second.
Okay.